Welcome to ongoing town meeting television coverage of elections for our area. We are here today to have a candidate forum with 3 candidates for 2 city council seats in Essex Junction. Essex Junction's a little different from a lot of our area in that they have their annual meeting on April 11th in the city. That's been going on for quite some time. This is not new. For those of you who are just new to this, April 10th, there will be an informational meeting. I believe we're live streaming that as well. Where will the informational meeting be held?
Online.
Online, only online this year. Thank you so much. I'm going to start this off by a quick disclosure that I am the co-director of CCTV, and CCTV board chair is Elaine Haney. And we are just letting folks know all the questions that folks see here have been prepared and everybody has seen in advance. And so we will get right into it. So we're going to start with opening statements from folks. And since we don't have an incumbent, because all of these folks are vying for the 2 seats that are being left by Dan Karen and George Tyler, we will start, if we can, just down here with Marcus Serta, and then we'll make our way up the table. And so just a 1-minute opening statement, and then we'll get into questions.
Thank you so much for the time. I really do appreciate it. I've been in Essex Junction for a little over 15 years. I have felt very fortunate to be a Vermont resident for over 20, nearly 26 years. But I first moved to Essex Junction as a renter in order to have the opportunity to send my daughter to Essex High School. She is an Essex High School graduate. I feel very fortunate that she had that opportunity in education. During that particular time, I fell in love with this community. I have remained in this community, and when the decision came down for my wife and I to buy our first home together, we found a home in Essex Junction, and we're so proud that we can be a part of what's happening in the city. I have participated in the discussion around merger and separation. The hope was bringing the community together. I think it did that. I think there was a lot of energy there, but I have seen a decline in that energy, and I'm hoping that me being in this race will help encourage that energy to return. One thing I also want to mention is the fact that I was also the host of a little show called The Morning Drive with Marcus and Kurt, with former Burlington City Councilor Kurt Wright. And during that opportunity, it really gave me a lot of opportunity to talk about the local issues, get involved with the community, and it gives me a very public record on being able to ask in-depth questions and get into those issues.
Great, thanks so much. And Elaine.
Thank you. I love Essex Junction and being a part of how it's evolved. I'm running for city council because I see so much potential in our new city. I will bring my passion for our community, my vision for our future, and leadership to the table. I want to work with volunteers to create more arts, more green spaces, and gathering spaces for community people. I want to support local businesses and make our community more attractive by creating a downtown organization. I want to ensure that projects comply with costs and minimize disruption and fit in with the city's vision for ourselves. I support maintaining a vibrant senior center, a robust rec department, and a well-resourced public works department. I will work to keep our city on budget and plan for the future with affordability as the top priority. I will work to make our community more accessible and inclusive. I was so proud that day in July when we celebrated our independence. Together, we made that happen. And it's that pride and that energy that are still with me and make me want to be a part of City Council.
Great, thanks so much.
A lot of people in the community know me as the cannabis candidate or the weed guy. However, it's part of who I am, but I am so much more than that. I've had a 40-year history in Essex Junction with business experience in several areas. I delivered the Burlington Free Press in Essex Junction, and it taught me the principles of business while also the discipline necessary to wake up at the crack of dawn every morning with no excuses. For 20 years, I ran in my own skydiving business as an instructor, coach, and jump master. I was entrusted with the lives of thousands of my students. My extensive training allowed me to be certified by the FAA to pack emergency parachutes, one of an elite few. I sincerely appreciate the dedication of those who served on the council before me. As a newcomer, this is an opportunity for me to have a shot at a seat. I was asked to become a skydiving instructor because of my passion, drive, and skills were noteworthy. In the same regard, members of the community have asked me to step up and run for city council to represent their voices. If I'm elected, I'll bring creative, critical thinking and a fresh perspective. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. And thank you all for your opening statements. Now, when we do this, we send out prepared questions, and we do have the lines open for callers, and that is at 802-862-3966. So we prioritize comments and questions from the public. And I'm going to start because we did receive one via email from someone who's not able to call in due to work. And this has to do with, at a recent city council, there was some, they alleged that there was some laughing, mocking and joking about a request to change the annual hearing date to avoid a religious holiday conflict. And I, not having read that meeting or seen that meeting, I don't know much more about it. The question is, what do you feel about mocking constituents in general, and specifically in areas of equity, diversity, and inclusion? And if anyone else wants to add shed any light on this question, if you're familiar with this, that would be helpful. So I'll give you each maybe about a minute and a half to respond to this, and that would be great. And we will start actually with Elaine, because we're going to go in a rotating order that way. Elaine, thank you.
Sure. I was not at that meeting, so I don't know the circumstances behind the what happened that night. But I do know that the annual meeting was scheduled on Passover, and which was an oversight, which the city council needs to be very careful, and the staff needs to be very careful that when they're scheduling this meeting, they're not overlapping on any religious holidays or really important days that our residents observe. So I know that there's a ballot item right now that asks the voters to approve allowing the city council to set the date. And I think that's a good idea, but the city council has to be mindful of the religious preferences of the residents and make sure that they're not scheduling a meeting on a holy day.
Great. Thanks. Jason, would you like to weigh in on this question?
I think it's perfectly acceptable to change the date of a meeting to accommodate any religious holiday. And I think it should be done in the future as well.
Great. And anything about the mocking of constituents or?
Well, I'm not religious personally myself, but both of my children have been raised Jewish, and that's not anything I would tolerate or think is inappropriate in any manner.
Great. All right. Thanks so much. Marcus.
I have to agree with both Elaine and Jason on this one. I did attend that meeting. I don't recall that specific moment, so I can't speak to any laughing that I heard. What I did hear from the council, though, was definitely an apology and an acknowledgement that they did not do that process correctly the first time. They did correct it by changing that date. They now use an interfaith calendar when they look and consider those kinds of conflicts, or need to consider those kinds of conflicts. So I think they're taking the appropriate measure they need to in order to adjust, and then for the future not have those kinds of conflicts happen. So yeah, I again, as I said, mocking of any religion, of any reason I think is inappropriate, but at the same time, I will give this one to the city council for having made the adjustment.
Great. Thanks so much. All right. And so a reminder to folks, if you're watching at home, again, 802-862-3966, you're welcome to call. You're watching us either on Comcast 1087, Burlington Telecom 217, or our YouTube channel at youtube.com/townmeetingtv. And we're going to jump into this budget question, and this is going to be a little bit of a mouthful. I could just ask you, do you support the budget or not? But I want to make sure folks follow along with the details of this. So, will you be supporting the Essex Junction city budget as outlined in Article 1 on the ballot? Shall the voters approve an annual general fund budget in the amount of $11,421,171 for fiscal year July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, $10,420,986 of which is to be levied in taxes against the city grand list. And I also welcome you in the spirit of opening the doors to democracy to help educate voters on what some of these things mean. So you're welcome to just say whether you support it or don't support it, but maybe talk a little bit about why. And we're going to start with you, Jason. You have 2 minutes on this. So.
As it is, I will be voting no on the budget as it is outlined. There are many things I agree with, but there's a few open holes that need to be filled before I would vote a yes. Before separation, voters were promised a 6 to 8% tax decrease before separation. I don't respect the fact that separation was sold under false pretenses. That's not fair government, and it's not, and the people responsible should have to answer for it. Essex Town was subjected to the exact same parameters of separation that we were. Separation, hiring positions, COVID, skyrocketing fuel prices, inflation. Somehow, the town of Essex was able to predict and deliver a 22% increase in their taxes. I'm a science guy and I appreciate numbers and facts. The lack of transparency I find is very concerning. There is a adult program director that is slated for employment. However, there's no job description, and there needs to be more information regarding that before I would vote yes.
Great. And if you know the percentage, what is the percentage increase on this budget?
We have a 0.4% increase that was adjusted from 1.4% at the 08 March City Council meeting.
Great. All right. Thanks so much. And Marcus, to you.
Thank you.
Supporting the budget or not, and help us understand this.
So I will be supporting the budget. I do agree with Jason. I'm disappointed that we did not see the decreases that were discussed during separation. But I can't ignore the fact that inflation has changed that whole game. That was something that could not have been predicted back when the mock budget had been created. There are some additional positions that are also on this budget. And while I do recognize that some of those positions have not been fully vetted in regard to here is their job description, I think looking at those particular positions, those are still out for discussion. But by having them on the budget, it gives us the opportunity to not have to wait 2 years potentially to put those positions and those programs into play. It gives us the opportunity to continue the community discussion. And if the community decides through that community discussion to not move that forward, we won't. But if they do, we will have the ability and flexibility to make that particular adjustment. I think that there are ways to improve the budgetary process. I have budgetary experience. I think there are ways to use metrics and other systems in order to make understanding the budget and developing a budget easier. I would like to bring that experience to bear on the City Council.
Thanks so much. Eileen.
I do support the budget, and I'm proud of the city staff and the hard work that they put into it. It's important to remember that the savings we realized from separation had to be used to reinstate the services and the staff that the village used to have before we started consolidating with the town many years ago. We had to build back up. So this budget accounts for many costs that used to be paid with Essex Junction tax dollars through the town. Things like stormwater, Green Mountain Transit, Winooski Valley Park District, all sorts of things like that. And now those costs have to be paid directly by the city. So on top of that, there's been a significant and unexpected increase in the Essex Rescue budget, as well as significant healthcare increases for staff. And then the 8 to 10% inflation rate that has hit all of us has hit the city just as hard. So it's not the savings that many were hoping for, but I appreciate the city staff and the council's creativity in coming up with additional savings so that the increase was reduced to 0.4% from 1.4%.
Yep. And for folks, if you're interested in knowing more about this, Town Meeting TV did do this week earlier a budget overview with city officials. So you're welcome to tune in and watch that and understand a little bit more about the Essex Junction budget that you'll be voting on April 11th. April 11th. We're going to move on to the question of articles. And I also want to remind you all that if you want to have a moment to interact with each other, you can rebut one another's questions. You get a 30-second rebuttal. So you can interact as well. So articles, there are a few other articles on the ballot. Articles 2 and 3 amend a city member conflict of interest prohibition, notably striking the prohibition on council members for employment in the city for 1 year. Articles 4 and 5 move the election of moderator and setting of the date to the council. Do you support these? Why or why not? So again, educate us a little bit about maybe the background, the history, and why you support or don't these articles. And Marcus, we'll start with you.
So I do support these changes. First off, talking about the conflict of interest, the evidence was apparent from the conflict between our charter and state statute in regard to a health officer. We ended up in a situation where we did not have a health officer. State statute requires that we have one, and that fell upon the chair of the board. But our charter doesn't allow for that. So this needs to be changed in order to align itself with state statute. I would like to see, however, us discuss, there is one line that is being omitted, and it needs to be omitted because of the example I just gave, but I think we should talk about whether or not an elected official should have the opportunity to take employment immediately following their service. I believe that the line that's in there requires a 1-year gap. I think we as a community should talk about whether or not that something like that is appropriate, or some new language that would make that work better.
Great, thank you. I think the line strikes that 1 year
Correct.
prohibition, right? Great. All right, and Elaine.
So Marcus said it very well and explained the reasoning behind aligning our charter with state statute to accommodate for that kind of scenario. So I'll just address the part about the gap in the 1 year gap. So there are many municipalities in Vermont who have hired or hire as a practice elected and formerly elected officials to serve on an interim or a permanent basis in various positions. And in fact, Essex Junction is one of the only towns in Vermont that does not allow that. So I think this is more bringing Essex Junction into alignment with just general practice. And there are a lot of very talented and knowledgeable public officials who could also do a good job as those employees. So I think removing that requirement is helpful to the municipality when they need to fill a position.
Great. And you have a couple seconds left. Did you want to say anything about the moderator and setting of the date to the council?
Sure. So, we moved our budget approval process and all of our election process to Australian ballot a while ago. So there really isn't a need for an elected moderator to moderate floor debate at this point. And since we're also moving the ability to set the date for the meeting to the city council, I think it just makes sense that those adjustments are being made to accommodate our new practice.
Great. Marcus, did you have anything pressing to say on that?
No, Elaine said that perfectly. I agree there, because we need the flexibility now that it's an informational meeting, and the date change, that we need that flexibility to assign it.
Great, thanks. And Jason, on to you with these questions.
Well, we have 3 points to address with these articles. I disagree with 2 of them, and I agree with 1.
Great.
As far as the moderator goes, I feel that taking away the rights of the voters to elect a moderator is chipping away at the rights of the citizens. In fact, at the meeting where this was brought up, a constituent emphatically argued against changing it. And he brought up a really good point that small changes that occur over time, we start here, and in 30 years from now, we have a drastically different system. So I don't feel it's democratic to take away a choice from the voters. In terms of the gap period, I think that policy was put in place for a very good reason, so that there wasn't a revolving door or any conflicts of interest. So I don't agree with that either. As far as the date goes, I'm all for changing the dates and accommodating everybody's schedules. This
Great.
makes sense.
Thanks so much. Thanks for explaining that. We do have a call from a viewer, and so be patient with me while I push the button on this and hope we connect to you. Hello, are you on the line? Hello, hello, hello.
Hello?
Hi, could you turn your TV down in the background?
Yes.
That's helpful. We can hear ourselves. Hi, welcome. If you want to just tell us your name and or your question, and remember all questions are addressed to all the candidates sitting at the table. Thanks. Hello? Can you hear us?
I can.
Great.
Hi, my name is Brian, and I live in Essex. This question I was just told that my questions were supposed to be directed to all the candidates, but
Yep.
This is mostly a question for Mr. Struthers. He stated in his campaign announcement that his decision to run was based partly on the city's reaction to him having a dozen ducks in his backyard to fertilize his cannabis plants. And as he learned, the city only allows five chickens, and there's no provision for ducks. My understanding is that the city only found out about this because of your neighbors were complaining. I was curious what you are doing to address those concerns of your neighbors, and how you could do so without having a conflict of interest there.
Thanks so much. So thanks so much.
I'm
Hang
happy
up
to
and you
address
can
it,
take
but
the-
I don't know if that's something I can talk about
No,
since the other
absolutely,
candidates
we can
can,
address
or-
it, and I think everybody else can talk about how you resolve conflicts with your neighbors in a
Sure.
community context. I think that would be great.
Sure.
So we'll start with, you know what, I'm actually going to follow our procedure, and we're going to start with Marcus, and we're going to address how you address conflicts with your neighbors in a community, and specifically maybe a community like Essex.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate in my neighborhood. I know my neighbors pretty well. We have a block party every year that helps bring us together, so we're in constant communication. I go to the dog park and interact with my neighbors there. I have learned through my experience of being a radio host, of talking about these kinds of issues, that there is always an opportunity to ask questions. There's always an opportunity to listen, and there's always an opportunity to have dialogue. And I have found common ground almost every time. There are some things I have some neighbors that will always disagree with me on, and that's fine. But I will always work with them and communicate with them in a way that respects their opinion, as well as hopefully they will hear mine, and we can try to find, again, a way to move forward. So I hope that we can all be good neighbors.
Great. Thanks so much, Elaine. And do you have any ducks or chickens?
No, I have one dog, 2 cats, love them all.
Awesome. Great.
I don't have chickens either. I live in a condo neighborhood, so we have an HOA, which would prevent that from happening. But I do have a dog that occasionally is kind of loud, and my neighbors have complained about that. And so really, it's for me, solving conflicts with neighbors is about give and take.
Yep.
And sometimes you have to give, and sometimes they have to give, and it's compromise. But overall, what I want to see is happy neighbors all around. So I definitely believe in building relationships with neighbors, and step by step. Sometimes it takes a long time to get to know a neighbor who might even live like 2 doors down, and you've only met them a few times, but you come together for various reasons, and working together to make sure that everybody has their needs met, especially if you may not realize that the thing that's going on in your home is really onerous or really upsetting to your neighbor, and then you find it out and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, how can I fix this? With also explaining, well, this is why I do this, and so maybe you can understand why I'm doing this. But it involves a lot of compromise and a lot of respect for both parties, and a lot of being willing to just work things out.
And full disclosure, I do have chickens. So, Jason.
Well, yes, initially the complaint was for an odor complaint. I would have been happy to address this with my neighbors personally, but not everybody wants to, address things in person, and you know, they avoid conflict maybe. So that is completely their right to do so. I received a letter from the town saying that it had come to their attention that I was raising ducks, and they would appreciate my cooperation in getting rid of them. I contacted Terry Haas and asked if there was anything I could do. She said I could apply for a variance, and that's what brought me before the council in the first place, and I'm actually appreciative of it because I'm here today now because of it. So the council initially denied my application for a variance. After the meeting, I brought up the fact that Section 17-02 of the Municipal Code clearly states that all agricultural processes are exempt from these municipal codes. And when I brought that up to the town manager, Regina, she told me that the city didn't feel what they were doing, what I was doing, was considered agriculture. At that point, I contacted the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, and I have a point of contact there. Explained the situation, and the Agency of Agriculture told me that what I could do, and I have done so, I've applied to become a farm less than 4 acres. If the Agency of Agriculture accepts my application to become a farm, the city will no longer be able to tell me what I can or cannot do in terms of my animals, because state law supersedes municipal codes. So if the Agency of Agriculture says denies my application, I'll happily acquiesce and get rid of my ducks. Otherwise, I'm doing my diligence to make sure I follow all the rules. We are talking about following the rules here, and that's what I'm doing.
Great. Thanks so much. And I'm sure constituents can reach out to all of you to talk about all of these things in greater detail. So we're going to move on to the next question, and I just want to apologize. I think I messed up the order on the last one. So just in full, again, everything out there.
It's fun to be human.
I'm not sure I noticed.
Yeah. So Article 7, shall the voters authorize a planning loan through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund for a project in the Water Prize Enter Fund to complete a service line inventory and lead service line replacement plan, or lead service line, not lead. Lead, is it lead? Is it
Yeah,
not
it's
lead?
lead.
Okay, great. In an amount not to exceed $433,700 to be financed over a period not to exceed 10 years. So please explain this article and tell us if you support it or not. And we're going to start with Elaine.
Okay. This is a clean water project that directly impacts public health and safety, so I absolutely support it. And basically it means the city would take out a loan to start a project to count and inspect all of our water lines to find out if any of them are made of lead. And if they are, it would require us to prioritize replacing them. Simple as that.
Great. Thanks so much. Jason, moving on to you.
I'm all for getting the lead out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Great. Excellent.
It's federally mandated. If we need to take a loan out for it, I'm all for it.
Great. Thanks. And Marcus.
I agree. It's a federal mandate. We have to do it. Our only other option is to say no to it, and that full amount will be dumped onto the next general budget. Do we want to pay this in one big lump sum, take away from other projects in the city, or do we want to get this no interest loan that the first payment happens in 5 years and we can pay it off in 10? I think this is the smart way to go, so I support this.
Great. That was going to be my next question. What if it gets voted down? So thank you for answering that in advance. This next one about legislative initiatives. So the Vermont legislative season is underway. What are some, and just, I want to just, let me finish reading this. The Vermont legislative season is underway. What are some important initiatives to the community of Essex Junction that you will be tracking and supporting as part of your work as a city council member? And I just want to say the reason that I am taking time to read these questions and you see them on the screen is because you can also watch this. We chapter mark these, so you can jump to the question of your choice quickly and watch that part. And we're going to start with Jason on this question.
Well, two things I'm watching are the affordable heat standard. Quickly, I think it's expensive and it's not going to reduce carbon that much. S100, that's requiring municipalities to have high-density housing. So, in other words, no single-family homes, and it's going to require up to 4 homes per acre. This I don't like because the state is dictating what the city can do in terms of the zoning. And I think it's better for municipalities, in this case, to judge their own situations.
Great. So we'll move on to Marcus.
No problem. So one of the bills that I'm watching very closely is S56. This is the child care bill. Essex Junction over the years has continually put resources and our Recs and Parks department very strongly behind taking care of kids in our community. We have one of the best child care after school programs in the county, let alone the state. It is looked upon as a leader in trying to take care of kids during that awkward time of parents having to work and kids needing care. And we have always been at the forefront of that. We should continue to be that as a community. And watching this bill, I'm going to see how this bill supports the efforts that we're doing here locally.
Great, thanks so much. And Elaine?
I am concerned about housing costs, and I'm also concerned about how some of the legislature's proposed fixes to the housing crisis might impact us. And like Jason, I am watching the large housing bill that's going through the State House right now to see if the recommended changes to local zoning rules pass. I'm not entirely certain that it's a requirement that there are no more single-family houses anywhere. I'm not sure that's accurate, but I have mixed feelings, like Jason does, about this, because having the state dictate zoning regulations to municipalities gives me concern regarding local control. But however, I think Essex Junction's Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan already address density and direct us to build in high density areas already. So I don't know that the new rules, if they pass, will have the same impact on Essex Junction as they would on other municipalities. But I'm still going to watch that bill because I'm concerned.
Great. And do any of you avail yourselves of the online opportunity to participate in the legislature, watching committee hearings, House, Senate?
I watch a lot. I haven't testified online before, but
Yeah.
it's a wonderful resource to have the State House online.
Again, with my experience, especially on WVMT and doing the morning show and talking about these local issues, I kind of got addicted to watching them, and because you really start to understand a little bit more about what is going into and the discussions and a lot of behind the scenes that I think a lot of people don't take into account when these bills are being proposed and discussed and worked through. So, yeah, no, I watch a lot of it.
Well, I do watch some of it. I mostly concentrate on Essex Junction, especially since my political aspirations are quite novel. And I'm a hometown boy, and I really want to concentrate on Essex.
Great, thanks. So housing, we're going to jump into housing next, and we're going to start with you, Marcus. Does Essex Junction have a housing crisis? What do you see as the nature of housing in Essex Junction and how to meet the need for safe and affordable housing?
And I'll say that I agree with the concerns that I hear from Jason and Elaine on the housing bill. But yes, we do have a housing crisis, but our housing crisis is not just our own. This is a statewide problem. It's a nationwide problem. But how do we fix that in our community? I have to recognize that we're a little less than 5 square miles. There isn't a lot of land that we can use to just build homes on. But I do want to see more opportunities for single family homes. I do want to see more opportunities for affordable housing. And when I say that, I mean affordable to everyone and accessible to those in low income situations. So we need to have a variety. That variety will allow for a complex and interesting community, and I think it will really help develop us in the long term in a much more sustainable way. So yes, we need to put some time there, and one of the things that I do want to discuss as a city councilor would be talking about our height restrictions actually in the city right now. If we're going to look for opportunities to build more housing, we might want to have that discussion, and it's going to be a difficult discussion about whether or not we can exceed the 4-story limit we currently have in the city.
Great, thank you, Elaine.
So Essex Junction families, like families across Vermont, are struggling to find affordable housing. And we are one of the fastest growing communities in Vermont. And with all of the apartment buildings that we have right now and the ones coming in the future, you would think that we have enough housing for everyone. but these apartments are renting out before the buildings are even completed, and single-family home prices are too high for young families, young professionals, and empty nesters. So we need all those apartments, and we need to make sure homeowners have options like accessory dwelling units, where folks can build a single apartment or add a single apartment to their home, as some residents in Essex Junction have done. And these can add affordable housing to a community without increasing density, and they have the added benefit of offsetting some property taxes. Our Housing Commission is working on some excellent ideas for supporting residents right now in our tight and expensive housing market. Ideas like ADA compliance and weatherization loans and low interest renovation loans. Those are things that the city can consider to help residents live more affordably. So I'm looking forward to hearing the Housing Commission's ideas and recommendations, and I would work with them to implement some of them if I were on City Council.
Great, thank you, Jason.
Well, as Marcus mentioned, not only is there a housing crisis in Vermont, but it is nationwide. I'd have to look at how much the population of Essex Junction is actually increasing. I think one thing we need to really look at is the regulation of short-term rentals. But Vermont has one of the highest percentages of vacation homes. 18% of the homes are second homes, vacation homes, and that is second only to Maine, and they are known as vacation land. So I think that levying a tax on out-of-state second homes will be advantageous for us. I think what we really need to look at is how the real estate market skyrocketed through COVID, that we're going to be reassessed soon, and as the market rights itself, we need to focus on that and make sure that our budgets don't price out all the people that are already living here.
Thank you so much. So we have about 8 minutes left or so, so I'm going to actually kind of consolidate some of these questions. I'm going to save the love of Essex question for the last one, because that's kind of the most fun. So I'm going to skip down to the development and change question, since we're talking about housing. And where do you see as the most important locations in Essex Junction that need redevelopment? How are you going to address that on the City Council? Does Essex Junction have a downtown city center? And we are going to start with you, Jason.
Yeah, for sure. The Five Corners is the nucleus of Essex Junction. I think that the area where development is most important is going to be the Crescent Connector. That plan will turn the Five Corners into the Four Corners. It's going to reduce the time people have to sit at the traffic light. It's going to increase the flow of traffic. And as much as I love the city, I do avoid the Five Corners because it is sometimes not very fun to sit in traffic and try to get through there. And I think we really need to improve flow.
Great. Thanks so much. Marcus.
One of the reasons why I enjoyed the neighborhood that I live in Essex Junction was because it gave me accessibility to all the other communities and all the things that I love to do without going through Five Corners. But now we have got a lot of businesses and other things going on in Five Corners that attract me, to bring me to Five Corners, and I'm really happy about that. But looking at the area, while I recognize the fact that there's development happening at Five Corners, I think one of the things that we should look at closely is Pearl Street. That particular corridor right now was built at a time when strip malls were the fad, the thing. It is one of our main arteries to get into our city. And I think that with a look at, and probably working with developers again on styling and things that we could do to improve the look and feel of that area with businesses that will attract more people, because that is a rich area of commerce for the city. Whether it's bringing in a full service grocery store into the community or some other restaurants, other types of businesses that will really attract and build up and make anew the Pearl Street corridor, I think that would be great.
Great. Thank you. Elaine.
I want to see the Five Corners area, which is our city center, thrive. I'm excited that with the Crescent Connector, we will be breaking ground this summer and we'll be building the first new road in our downtown in decades. With this new road will come more apartments and more first floor retail space. So I want to see that area filled with new small businesses, sidewalks, and green spaces so our residents have an attractive and walkable downtown. And I want to start a downtown organization to support all of our local businesses, and I believe the City Council should take the lead on that. We also have the funding now to renovate our train station, thanks to Senator Leahy, and along with that renovation will be significant road rebuilding and water line changes, so on Railroad Avenue. So Essex Junction is the busiest transportation hub in the state, and with its high usage, we need to ensure our infrastructure can withstand that heavy use. And with all the new people moving into Essex Junction, we also have to work on parking for residents and visitors. So I think the City Council may have to consider using economic development funds to form some public-private partnerships to create more parking options. And all of this development is happening in our little downtown. So Essex Junction is less than 5 square miles, and it's important that we keep the development in areas that are already dense and that we can maintain our residential areas and our green spaces. And lastly, the most important aspect of our community and all the development that's going on is community input. And I really think the city needs to do a better job engaging residents on what they want our downtown to look like and what's most important to them. And as a city councilor, I would work really hard to communicate with residents regularly about development issues.
Great, thanks.
I do have one point I'd like to
Yeah,
add.
go ahead.
While the city is developing, one thing I'd really like to see is the city become more amenable to walking and biking, to not only to reduce carbon footprint, but just to make the city more accessible to everybody.
Great, thank you. So we have 3 questions that we're not going to get to. One is on language access and supporting the diverse number of languages that folks speak in the community, especially as it pertains to participating in local democracy. One has to do with public safety, and one has to do with climate change and how you're going to use your role. So we missed some big issues here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just invite you all to take 1 minute if one of these really rose to the top that you want to answer. I just want to give you a chance to put that on the table. And we are going to start with you, Marcus, on that. And it doesn't mean it's your favorite, I know
Yeah.
that, but thanks.
No, I do want to make sure that I talk about public safety. Public safety is extremely important to me. And so I think while I admire what the Essex Police Department has done, we are contracted with the town for these services. We need to make sure that we are getting our fair service from that particular contract. So we need to work with them on that. I also want to make sure that the Essex PD has the resources and training to do not just a good job, but to do an outstanding job and to do it fairly and justly with our community. One of the things that I will be supporting and is soon to be put before the City Council is a plan for a community advisory board. This board has been developed with Chief Hogue and Essex Best. This collaboration of creating this advisory board, I think is going to do an amazing job of creating community development between the Essex PD and the city, and I will fully support that effort.
Great, thanks. And Elaine?
So there's literally nothing more important than making sure that every resident in our community is healthy and safe, and doing so with our police department in as responsible and equitable way, as equitable as possible. And I agree with all the things that Marcus was saying. It's very important for us to make sure that Essex Junction is at the table with all of the decisions that are being made by the town police department. But I also see the Essex Police Department dealing with far more calls than they have the capacity to deal with. And we have an increase in speeding, we have lots of noise violations, we have lots of theft in our community, and we also have things like psychiatric crises, substance use issues, and domestic violence. And so I see the police being asked to enforce our laws, but also to provide social services that they're not necessarily trained to provide or that have the capacity to provide. So when I was a member of the Village Trustees and the Essex Select Board, we worked with the Howard Center and the police department to have social workers come ride out on calls for non-criminal issues. I really think that's a great program. I support it and I want to expand it. mainly because I think that our safety net, our social safety net and human services in Essex Junction is weak, and I would like to have more social services brought into the city.
Thanks so much. And Jason?
Just to touch on language, of course we want to make Essex a place that is welcoming to all. In order to do that, I would need some more data and possibly a study on exactly what languages.
Oh, pause everything. Yep. Good. No,
What
we're gonna pause it.
languages?
Yep. That's okay. It happens here.
What languages we need to concentrate on. Like I said, I'm fiscally conservative, and before I spend money, I want to make sure that we want to know how big the problem is, what the appropriate amount of money to spend on it is, and do the taxpayers support it. In terms of public safety, the city of Essex Junction has no police department. The town owns the police station. We have a 12-year contract with the town. We pay for services of protection. So we have a 12-year time frame to figure out some creative and new ideas. We could do something on the lines of offering bonds to the residents to buy the police station. The town could mortgage the police station to us. There are a lot of different things that we could do, and especially since we have 12 years to plan for it, if we start saving money for it now, we can make some really positive change.
Great, thanks. And thanks for being patient with me, getting you to wrap up a little quicker. We'll end now with closing statements and the question about what do you love about Essex? So, Essex Junction. Why do you live? And I'm from Essex Junction, so I get to make that mistake over and over again. So, what do you love about Essex Junction? Why do you live there? What's your favorite spot? And why are you running? And then we'll be out. And we are going to start, I think, with Elaine on this question.
How much time do we have for this?
Let's give it about a minute.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I truly love how this is a great question. It's always my favorite one. I truly love how our community comes together to celebrate, to share, and to play. And my family has created wonderful memories over the years, from our Memorial Day parade, which Marcus and I have been emceeing, and our 4th of July celebration, gather at the table. All of my kids have done Little League, and the Little League parade is one of my favorite things that we do every year. Our farmers market was amazing, and I really hope we can do something to bring that back. And the volunteerism that blossomed out of our decision to separate was just made me so proud. So almost every day you can find me walking around in the woods behind my house or at the Whitcomb Farm, which is a wonderful resource for folks to hike in. The community garden in West Street, I go there every year, even though I can't always have the time to garden there. I just go look at all the wonderful vegetables and plants. The library, the park, our wonderful downtown gathering places like Nest and Boxcar Bakery and Martone's. And I've planted deep roots in our little city. I've run a bookstore here. I've served as an elected leader and a volunteer. And I'm proud of all the things that we've all accomplished together, and so I want to continue my service by running for City Council, and I hope that folks will vote for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. And Jason.
Well, not only am I a native to Vermont, but I'm a native to Essex Junction. I'm a product of the excellent school system. I live here, I work here, and I love everything about it. As a child, I would frequent Tip Top News, mostly because of Penny Candy. I would go to the Central Beverage to and from school, and I rode my bike every day to the Maple Street Park to go swimming. These days, I go to my physical therapist in Essex. They send me to Fleet Feet to get special shoes for my back. I go to the Asian Mart for eclectic food to shop for. I go to for everyday items at Max Market. I take my kids to Maple Street Park, Stevens Park. It was a great place to grow up and spend my childhood, and I'm proud to say that I was able to raise my children here.
Great. Thanks so much. And Marcus.
Thank you. I need like 5 minutes for this particular question because I love so much about Essex Junction. I mean, food usually comes first and foremost to my mind, whether it's grabbing a dozen donuts before doing a show in the morning, or at Quality Bake Shop, or grabbing a croissant over at Boxcar, or going to Martone's for a sandwich, or getting some spicy food over at Red Panda. I love the food that's happening in Essex Junction, and I look forward to more coming into the city. I do want to talk about Maple Street Park because it is such a key piece of the city, and one of the things that I love most is the holidays. They light that place up. They decorate it for the holidays. Nothing better to walk your kids through that park during that time of year. I walked my dog through it this year. It was quite an adventure. We had a great time. And, you know, like I said earlier, I participate at the dog park. There's just so much going on in the city that I absolutely enjoy. And I do want to, one quick shout, thanks to the Essex Junction Fire Department at Halloween for coming out, driving through the neighborhoods, passing out candy. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Love that. And if people want more information, go to certa4ej.org. I would love to connect with you.
Great. Certa4ej.org. Elaine.
Elaine for EJ.com.
Okay. And Jason.
JasonStrothers.com.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all for participating tonight. If you can't feel it at home, there's a lot of great energy here. Volunteers who are stepping up to serve your community. I'm at the wrong camera. There we are. And thanks for watching. This is Town Meeting TV. You can watch us again at youtube.com/townmeetingtv or at ch17.tv. And we will see you on April 11th at the polls in Essex Junction at the Expo Center for the Shambling Valley Expo. That's where voting is going to be. Great. Thanks all, folks.